I've never really thought of myself as being an author, although in fact I've actually done quite a lot of writing. I suppose the first substantial piece of writing was this, my doctoral thesis from the University of Edinburgh. I did a PhD called The Biochemical Studies of Induction and Development of the Vertebrate Lens. And obviously this is a science thesis, and I was really pleased when the external examiner said that it was well written. And I was most pleased about that particular comment. Having worked in higher education for over 50 years, of course I had to do a lot of writing. I wrote chapters for books, I wrote journal articles and official reports. And I found this writing in some ways rather frustrating because there were quite specific demands, frameworks, editorial requirements, particularly with regard to academic referencing. Nevertheless, I did achieve quite a lot of different publications. Two of my favourites are here, the most recent ones, and in addition to that, of course, I did a lot of work for students. I much preferred writing for students because there I could use my own ingenuity to some extent. I could be much more creative. I could write in a much more conversational style because I needed to involve students. And I used a whole variety of different media. Way back it was largely print, film strips, audio tapes and video, and of course more recently it has been all about things online, e-learning, and using a variety of electronic ways. And the style of writing there is very different because you can't have great screeds of things on the screen, so it tends to be more informal, still interactive, linking students to things they must look at, using perhaps pictures, diagrams, animations, and links to perhaps also some more discursive things that they can download to read later. Also within my academic career, I was involved in a lot of national projects, which were collaborative works producing a whole variety of materials, staff development materials largely for doctors, teachers, lecturers, social workers, and I loved being involved in these projects. Again, we were quite creative in the use of media and more recently in the use of e-learning, and these were things which were quite significant because they had an impact across the whole country. They were being delivered to every GP practice, to every school in Scotland, and they were quite exciting to be involved in, and some of these projects lasted several years while we were developing materials, trialling them, and using a lot of different writing styles to make sure that they were interesting and engaging. Away from academia, I've always liked poetry. I've always written poetry, but only just for myself and my friends and family. But it's something that I find relaxing and a way of connecting with places I've visited. When I go to a tourist attraction, if there was one of these visitor books, I tend to write a little poem about the place I visited, rather than just saying, this was wonderful. So I'll maybe read a couple of these examples. There's a beautiful village, old village, called Auchindrain, which is an old homestead with cottages as they were hundreds of years ago. And we visited there, and as I came out, I wrote this thing in the little visitor's book. We wandered through old Auchindrain, over rough and rugged terrain. The centuries tumble, the cottages crumble, back to nature again. The person in charge was quite amused to see this alongside the other comments. Another example, there's a beautiful place called Tainish, which has a wildflower meadow going down to a beach, and the local council has set up what is essentially a writing area. They provide writing materials and they encourage people to write and leave poems, and then they collect them and print them at the end of the year so you can read what happened last year. We went to this beautiful place just about a year after my dad died, and this is what I wrote there. 30 different wildflowers, gently passing happy hours, grief abating, joy awaiting, a peaceful future. Sometimes they're a bit more light-hearted. The North Yorks Steam Railway, for instance. Clickety-clack, clickety-clack. The line is steep, scatter the sheep, over the track, on the way back. Billowing stream, bubbling steam, heath and thistle, sound the whistle, clickety-clack, clickety-clack. But the poetry is really just for me and occasionally for perhaps some parish magazines. And about 15 years ago, I woke up one morning with a story in my head. I decided I wanted to write my novel. And I started writing it, realised I knew nothing about how to write a novel, so I joined an extramural class. And that was great. And I did learn a lot about plot and characterisation and different ways of writing, but I got diverted because there were so many interesting projects. So I was writing plays, I was writing poems, I was writing short stories, and the group of us became the Nether Great Writers, and we published several volumes of short stories, and several years running we were the most popular purchasing in Tayside. So that was a great experience, and one day I will actually get back to the novel. The next piece of writing was when I found my father's letters after he'd died. And I read these and realised perhaps there was a story there. I contacted a colleague, Eddie Small, and he read the letters, listened to the story and decided that yes, there really should be a book there, and he encouraged me. And he introduced me to Tom and Julie Christie of Extremis Publishing, and that of course led to the publication of that book, and I was really delighted by that experience. And now that I'm retired, of course my next book is about my 50 years in higher education and how that has shaped my views on teaching and learning and things that have happened. So I will be working on that for the next little while. I've done about 50,000 words, but it's still a work in progress. So actually, thinking back over what I've said, perhaps I am an author after all.